Hello guys, and welcome to the continuation of our training in AWS Solution Architect Associate level. We are continuing with the training in S3 buckets. So today our agenda for today looks like this. We are going to be talking about encryption. We're going to see how we can encrypt objects in our bucket and actually understand what encryption is all about. Then we are going to look at metadata and tags. In all our AWS journey, we have been seeing tags. We're going to understand what it is all about. Then we are going to look at access control list, evaluate what exactly access control list is and how it is different from bucket policy, because these two might sound like they are the same thing. So we are going to actually pull a difference between access control list and bucket policy. Then we are going to end with S3 lifecycle manager. We're going to see, we promised when we were doing storage class that we are going to do lifecycle manager, and you're going to see what it is all about. So all in all, let us begin with encryption. So what is S3 encryption? So generally, as we did say, information is always found inside our bucket. Okay, information is always found inside this bucket like this, and for security reasons, we do not want anybody to steal this information. We do not want anybody to steal information. So we can decide that any information that is found inside this bucket is going to be encrypted. So anything that is found inside this bucket is going to be encrypted. We can decide like that. Or we can decide that, okay, not everything that is found inside this bucket will be encrypted. We can do the encryption at the object level. That means encrypt some and we don't encrypt some. So what is actually encryption? What do we mean by encryption? Now look at something. If there was a message that you wanted to send to your friend, and the message was please don't act until I come. Now this is a message that you wanted to send to your friend, right? Encryption can be anything. You can say decide and send this message in your dialect. Suppose the people around your friend do not understand your dialect, that is still encryption. Okay, if you send this message in your dialect and people around you, your friend does not understand your dialect, they will not understand this message. So that's the idea behind encryption. The idea is you get the information, you get the material, but you don't understand anything the material is saying. That is the idea behind encryption. Okay, so in this situation, who will get this material? How will the computer encrypt this thing? The computer will send you an information like this. Instead of actually giving you this information, they will send you an information like this. And this will be the message. So this is, please don't act until I come. But if anybody sees this message, if anybody lays host on this message, this is what that person is going to see. Okay, see some random generated characters which do not have any meaning. Nobody can make sense out of this meaning. Only the computer that encrypted this message can decode this message. Nobody can make sense out of it. Okay, that is the meaning of encryption. So you will put your file inside here. Your file can be a PDF file, your file can be a Word file, and then encrypt the file, which means that PDF will not more be PDF. If anybody sees the file, it will not more be PDF. Only people that have authority to enter inside this bucket and remove this file will remove it in its decrypted format. Okay, but in transit, like this file is moving from one bucket to one system. You know, the file can always move from the bucket to the system. There is a cyber attack called man in the middle. By the time this file is moving from here, this file is moving from here to here, the man in the middle will attack the file from here. So if that man in the middle attacks this file, he will see but this nonsense here. He's not going to see the message, or he will not going to see the format of what he has intercepted. All right, so encryption is actually the process of modifying or changing or decoding, encoding the not encoding, please, because there's a difference between coding and decoding. Encryption is actually changing the characters or changing the format in which the information is sent. Okay, that is encryption. So let's see how encryption is being achieved with S3 buckets. So let us create our buckets. So with S3 bucket, we have two forms of encryption. So we have encryption at the bucket level, and then we have encryption at the object level. Okay, we have two forms of encryption at the bucket level and encryption at the object level. So these are the two kinds of encryption. So let's see how the encryptions move. So let us create a bucket. We give our bucket a name. Remember that your bucket must have a very unique name. Okay, let me give the bucket VTA studies. Okay, and then I am coming down, ACL enabled. I make my bucket public, and then I acknowledge. Now we can do this encryption while creating our bucket, and we can also do it while after we must have created our bucket. So there are two ways by which you can encrypt. Okay, you can decide to encrypt from the server-side encryption with Amazon S3 managed keys. Okay, or you can decide to do the server-side encryption with AWS key management service keys. Now there is this AWS key management service keys. You are going to need programmers of AWS to generate these keys and manage them. So at the level of solution architect, I'll always advise you to go for this encryption type. Okay, don't go for this encryption type. This encryption type is for advanced developers and maybe DevOps engineers who understand how to generate the keys and manage them. So for you, just always for AWS solution architect, just always go for server-side encryption with Amazon S3 managed keys. Let AWS manage the keys for you. All right. So we choose this option, and then we come down using S3 bucket key for server-side encryption key management service. So this one we are going to disable it. Okay, and then we create our bucket. So you have seen how while creating the bucket you can do your encryption, but now I don't want to do the let me show you now. After you must have created the bucket, how can you do your encryption? If after you must have created the bucket without doing your encryption, how can you now go and change your encryption? So we create our bucket. Our bucket is created. Now that our bucket is created, we open our bucket. Now anything that enters this bucket is encrypted, so nobody can see it, nobody can understand it. You cannot appreciate it because you are having access to the bucket, so you cannot appreciate it. The only person that can appreciate what you have just done now is the hacker or the man in the middle. Okay, so under your bucket you always have all the various properties like versioning, tags, default, encryption. Now this is where now you can change your encryption or add any encryption. All those conditions that we saw are here. All right, you can change it to take this one, or you can change it to take the two of them, right? And when you take this one, you discover that when you take the one that you yourself you are going to manage, they'll ask you for the keys to create the keys, but you do not know how to create the keys. You do not know about the resource called AWS Key Management Service, so you do not choose this one. Okay, so you always take this one and you save your changes. So this is where you can actually do your encryption. So when you do this, understand now that you have done your encryption, and no person can intercept your objects from your bucket and have an understanding of what they actually are. Nobody can do that. All right, that is all about encryption. Just clicking a button and validating and enabling the service is enough for you. That is all about the service. All right, that was it for encryption. Let us go to metadata and tags. What is metadata and tags? Okay, before we go to metadata and tags, let us first of all upload an object and then encrypt it too. Let us go to objects, upload. That what we have just done is server-side encryption. Now I want us to do object level encryption. That is bucket side encryption. Let us do object level encryption now. Let us look for an image that we have been using. The image was in projects. The project was in S3, and images exactly. Let us look for an image like this one and we upload. Okay. Now while uploading this image, you can come to properties, right? You look at properties, you see specify, storage, class, encryption, settings, tags, and the rest. Okay, you can click here and you can do all those things here. You can specify your encryption level here. Now here you come down, this is your encryption. Okay, specify encryption, specify an encryption key, or do not specify an encryption key. Okay, so you can decide to specify your encryption key, which is the same scenario which I actually told you. You can use bucket settings for default encryption, or override bucket settings for default encryption. If you take this one, you are going to have to provide your different keys. Okay, so you can just take specify an encryption key and use bucket settings for default encryption. Okay, and that will be good for you. You can encrypt your object. Your object is already encrypted. You don't have any problem while uploading. So should you uploaded your object and then you had not yet encrypted the object, you can always come back to your object properties. All objects have properties. Come back to your object properties and you search for encryption here. So this is the default encryption. You search for encryption and then you change your settings here. All right, so you can always change your settings for encryptions here. Decide which one to take. I repeat again, the server-side encryption managed by AWS is best for you at the associate level, while the AWS Key Management Service is best for DevOps engineers because they are next to programmers, or they understand more better than you. So this service will not be, if you are working with this service, you are supposed to work with DevOps or programmers who are going to manage this key for you. Okay, so you save your changes and then that is good for you. So that is this is the object now encrypted inside a bucket that is encrypted. So we have done our encryption bucket level and we have done our encryption object level. We are good to go. All right. So our encryption is the bucket is encrypted and the object is encrypted. We are fine. So the next thing on our agenda is metadata. So what is metadata? Metadata is only the way you use in order to identify your objects. Okay, the way you use in order to identify your object is called metadata. So when you come to your properties, where are we in our objects? This is our bucket, okay, and then this is our object. Okay, if we come to our objects and we come to our properties, we'll see a host of different properties that are associated with our object. There are a host of them, and if we go to metrics, you will see bucket metrics. That means this one is telling you everything about the bucket, where the bucket is located, what is associated, replication metrics of the bucket. You remember we talked about cross-regional replication and bucket replication in the same region and everything. Okay, so these are all matrices. So with metadata, you are only going to give enough information to the bucket such that most often that information will be given back to you during your billing section. Okay, that information will be given back to you during your billing section. That is the only use for metadata. Metadata is used to give you information during your billing section. So let us create a metadata for our objects. Okay, let us create metadata for our objects. So by default, we have a default metadata. Let's look at our metadata. This is our metadata. So first of all, before you will see your metadata, some people are always like step-by-step type of people. Before you see your metadata, you have your bucket. This is your bucket. Okay, you click on your bucket up here, you will see your bucket. You click on the bucket, then you will see your object that we have uploaded. This is the object that we just uploaded. Click again on the object that we just uploaded, and then you come down. Right down, you will see metadata. Okay, this is your metadata. So this metadata is what is going to give more meaning to your bucket. Okay, we have system defined, key and value. So the metadata that is by default is the system defined metadata. The system default metadata is naming the object as AWS has warranted you to name the object. Like if we go to edit here, if we come to edit here, and then we take add metadata, choose type. If we take system defined, system is going to give us a host of keys. Do you want to name your data by type, by cache control, by disposition, by encoding, by language, by expiry date, right? These are the various different ways by which AWS tells you that you should name your object. So you can say by language, and then you say the language is, and then you say language, put here language, that is a key, language, and no, the key is language and the value is maybe English, right? The value is English. So when you choose system defined, the system is going to provide you the key. The system is going to provide you the key, and then you are just going to pass the value. That is system defined. Okay, but if you look at all the system defined keys, you can have a different way of you want to name your object. Maybe destination, or maybe provider, or maybe uploader. You can decide to name your object like that, say, okay, you have a bucket where so many people are uploading to the bucket. So you can decide that you want to put uploader, but you don't have any uploader here. So what will you do? You will say that you want now, but your user defined, and in your user defined you can put now uploader here. When you put uploader and then you put the value, now you say Kiba is the one that uploaded this bucket, right? And then you add again, you can put another one, user defined. After uploader you say region, where that bucket is coming from, if your company, where that object is coming from. If your company is a global company, and then you want to know where every object comes from, region, maybe Dubai, right? Dubai. And then all these things are going to be associated with your object. At the end of the day, you put save changes. What have we just done? We have just added more metadata to our objects, right? Let us see what we have done. This is our object, and then when we go down to metadata, you will see that we have region. Our object is coming from Dubai. The uploader is Kiba. Okay, that is metadata. Now, how will this metadata help us? Is it just to show us that it's coming from here? No. In this our AWS account, now if Kiba is uploading so many things and things that are heavier, which are supposed to incur cost, and then we are searching for what is actually incurring cost for us, AWS is going to use this metadata and help us to provide us with what is incurring us the cost. The metadata is going to be used with tags. This is tags. So we said our topic or our module was metadata and tags. So the metadata is going to be used with tags. So what is a tag? A tag is just a name. It can be a name, it can be a location, it can be anything, right? When you say edit, you can add maybe you can give a tag, add tag, you can say the key, put it a name, and then the value, you name the object. Maybe the object is for example marriage pictures, right? This is a tag, and you can still add more tag. Key, year, right? Maybe the pictures we are taking in 2023. Okay, these are tags. Tags are just like metadata. Okay, so tags are, these tags just will be what will be attached to your billing, and then you will see that this particular object is coming from this person with this metadata who is from this locality. It gives more clear expression on what the object is all about. I hope I'm able to explain metadata and tags very well. Like for example, if when you hear of metadata, it is a series of things that will make you be identified. So if they ask you as a student, what is your metadata? Metadata is comprehensive information that will make you be identified. Like we have a certain Tom here. This is Tom. Let's draw a caricature Tom. We have a certain Tom here. Now, nobody, what is your name? My name is Tom. This is Tom actually. Okay, the name is Tom. Is this information able to really identify Tom? No. So we need more metadata on Tom. So metadata is additional information that just identify who Tom is, right? Tom is a Cameroonian, right? Tom is a Cameroonian. Tom speaks English. Tom speaks English, right? Tom comes from maybe the northwest region. This is all metadata that we are gathering. And Tom's father is Mr. Bob, right? Tom's address in Cameroon is maybe Commercial Avenue, Bamenda. So if Tom is identified, Tom is found sick somewhere, and they see Tom's maybe what do they call it, passport or ID card or whatsoever, it will give a metadata on who Tom is, and they will be able to identify Tom very well and know how to trace Tom's origin. Metadata is all about identifying your bucket or anything. So we know about metadata in Kubernetes, where we are using our manifest file. So that metadata is just to identify that particular manifest file. Okay, so this is all about metadata. All right, so let's come to access control list. What is actually access control list? We actually worked with access control list when we were controlling the access to our bucket in our very first class of S3. So I am bringing back access control list because I want to differentiate it from bucket policy. All right, so let us think a bit again about what our access control list is all about. Now, this object that we have just uploaded, this is the object that we have just uploaded. Is it available? Is this object available to the public to see, for the public to see? Let us see. We go to our bucket. How do we check whether the object is available? We enter our bucket, we enter our object, right? And then we take the URL of our object, and then we see if we can have access to our object, right? Now, when we try to have access to our object, what will happen? We are unable to have access to this object by default. We are unable to have access to this object, and the reason is because our access control list is not set to grant public access to the bucket. You see, access denied. The reason why we are unable to access this bucket is because our access control list is not setting access to the bucket, okay, to the object. Now the question is, how should we have access to this bucket? In order to have access to this bucket, there is something you can do. You can only grant access through your access control list, okay? And how do you get to access control list? In order to get to your access control list, you have to go to permissions, and then you see access control list. And when you see your access control list, what do? You can actually go to edit first, and then you come down to everyone, that is public access, and you give a read, right, to your public access. When you give that read to your public access, you understand what you are doing, and then what do? You save changes. And when you save these changes, you come back. Now your bucket should be able to, your object should be able to be available, right? Okay, right now this object is available, okay, and we can see it in our public access. Now if I decide to upload another object again in my bucket, if I want to upload an object again in this my very bucket like this, I'm trying to upload an object in this bucket. Let me upload an object. That particular object in which I am trying to upload will still not be seen again, right? The object will still not be seen again. I will have to go again to permission. Did I have something wrong? Okay, that bucket was already deleted. That was not the bucket we created. This is actually the bucket we created. So I'm trying to upload an object to this bucket, right? I'm trying to upload an object to this bucket. Each time I add a file to the bucket like this, that file, I will either have to still go to permissions. Anytime I'm adding the file, I will need to go to permission and grant public access to the file. Each time I am adding any file, I'll have to go to permission, grant public access to the file before I upload. If I don't do this, this file will not be available. Now the question arises, how will you be able to be granting access to files that are added automatically to this bucket without you having control of it? Because generally this is what happens. You can have a situation in this manner. You have a bucket that is here. This bucket is here like this. Now you have an application that is running. There is an application that is running here. This application is running here, and the content of this application are being added directly to the bucket, right? As this application is running, content are being added directly to the bucket. Now the question is, while being added to the bucket, if we say that more than 2000 content are added to this bucket every time this application runs per day, or let's even give per week, will you be able to go and manually give public access to all these 2000 content objects that are being added to this bucket? You are incapable of doing that. It is not possible for you to do that. So what is going to help you to constantly give access to or define access to objects that are added to a bucket? Okay, because remember, access is given at bucket level and at object level. So if you give access to, you can give access, define access to bucket level, yes, that means every object that enters here, you can have access to it, but you still also have to give access to object level. So bucket can have public access and object does not have public access. So for object to have public access, it has to be given. So now, in order to give public access to objects automatically, we are going to come to what is called bucket policy. Okay, we are going to come to what is called bucket policy. So what is bucket policy and how does it work? Bucket policy simply says that we are going to define a policy as a form of a code that any object that enters this bucket can be accessible or cannot be accessible, or can have these qualities or cannot have these qualities. So we are going to define as code the characteristics that objects that are entering this bucket will have. Okay, so how do we do that? We are going to come to what we call, go to your permissions, right? We come to your permissions, you will see what we call bucket policy. All right, this is a bucket policy. So how do you do with bucket policy? Bucket policy, you just simply start writing your code. You can just decide to start writing your code, and you tell the object what the bucket, what your policy is all about. But since some of us or most of us do not, the code should be written in JSON. Okay, this code should be written in JSON. You can write their code here. But since most of us are not programmers and we do not know how to write code, AWS can generate that code for us. So in order to generate that code in JSON, you just go to edit, right? When you go to edit, and then you come to generate code, right? Policy generator. You come to policy generator, and then here now you are going to generate your policy. Okay, what type of policy do you want to generate? I want to generate an S3 bucket policy. Okay, I want to generate an S3 bucket policy. And in order to generate this S3 bucket policy, what do you want to do? All right, you can say I want to allow, or you want to deny. Let's first take allow and see how it functions. You can say I want to allow principal. Put star. When you put star, it means for everything in the bucket. Okay, sorry for that. You want to allow shift star, right? That means everything inside the bucket. Star means everything. Okay, and service, AWS service is S3 already taken for you. And then actions. Okay, what type of actions do you want that should be valid for this bucket? For this one, you have a host of actions for you. You can take each action according to how you want your needs to be. If you have a bucket that you do not want people to manually be entering into the bucket and doing things, you can define it all here. Okay, you can say create grant access. You can create access grant instance for maybe EC2 instance. You can create access grant location. You can talk of where somebody can be in order to access that bucket. Somebody can create a job in that bucket. Somebody can I mean, people should be able to do a lot of things, get the bucket policy, have the possibility to view bucket policy, right? You can set all of this. It depends on what each and every point actually will do. This one, list bucket. If you don't put list bucket, nobody will be able to even see the various buckets that you have. If you remove this one like this, nobody will be able to see the various buckets that you have. You can also remove this one. Nobody will be able to see your various objects that are inside your bucket. So let us first of all just say, okay, all actions. We give access to all the actions, all of them. Okay. Then we come now to Amazon resource name. Where do you get your Amazon resource name? You come back to your bucket. And see your bucket. You see copy Amazon resource name. This is ARN, Amazon resource name. You copy it from here. You come and then you paste it here. Okay. Now, when you paste this, is this the right bucket? I'm not sure this is the right bucket. Let us get the right bucket. Okay, let me see this one. This is not supposed to be the right name. Okay, let me come to open the bucket, and then I go to properties. This should be my Amazon resource name, this one like this. Good. Come here and then I paste it. Now look at something. We are going to check this language. We have pasted our Amazon resource name, but it is telling us that we needed to put slash, maybe key or something. What I discovered, this is my own personal discovery. I don't know whether AWS knows what is going on. This is my own personal discovery. What I discovered is when you paste it like this add statement will never get highlighted for you to validate, right? But when I added a small hyphen here, it came on. But when it came on, if you say okay, if you remove it, it will still be there, right? So you have tricked the system, and now you generate. So you put that hyphen, it comes on, and then you add a statement. When you add the statement now, then you are going to generate the policy. Okay, so when you put that that slash up there, don't forget to remove the slash back. You are just putting the slash for this add statement to be highlighted, and then you generate now your policy. Now this is your policy already written in JSON format. You copy your policy now. You copy this policy, and then you come now to this place and then you paste. Okay, when you paste your policy, now you can come now here and then you say save changes. All right, your changes have been saved. Now remember that when we uploaded a file, we need to go to access control list and give public access to the file before the file can be accessible. Right now, let us try now and see whether we can just upload a file and then just access the file, because we have made it a policy that all files should be accessible by public. So let us upload a file, and then we upload this one. We are not going to give public access to the file. We are just going to upload the file and see if we can access the file. If we are able to access the file, then our policy is working. If we are not able to access the file, then our policy is failed. Okay, so let us copy the URL and a moment of truth. So we are capable of accessing the file without giving it any ACL public access. Okay, why? Because our bucket policy now states that any file that enters into our bucket is publicly available, as well as we can still state our bucket policy to be stringent. Listen to what we can give to our bucket policy. Let us close this one and start all over again. We can give this bucket policy. You can say like this. Okay, we have AWS deny, right? We deny, put star, deny for everything inside the bucket, not a particular path, and then we come now, we select certain things and we deny. Okay, we can deny maybe a list. Let's see what we can deny. We can deny a whole lot of things from this bucket. We can deny a whole lot of things. Let us go to everything list. We deny everything list. We deny everything list. We deny everything list. We deny. That is, we are trying to say that nobody should be able to see anything in this bucket. Nobody should be able to see anything. So we deny a host of things. List, anything that comes with list we do not want to get, we deny. Okay, then now we look again. We try to see at the level of maybe bucket policy. You cannot even see it. You cannot see a bucket policy, but it will be dangerous for us to put it back. So let's allow bucket policy. We go down, so you can control how your bucket is going to behave here. Okay, so let us just deny everything list. Okay, we have denied everything list. All right, we copy our ARN from the bucket. This is our ARN, and then we come here and we paste it there. Remember, in order to trick for this to come on, we put a slash. This is my own discovery. You put a slash and then you add statement and then you generate policy. Now this is a policy that we have generated that actually refuse a certain list. What is the meaning of list? Means you cannot see anything, right? List means you cannot see anything. So we go to our bucket policy. Go to our bucket policy. Where is our bucket policy? Let's go to our bucket permissions. This is our bucket policy, so let us edit it. We can now delete this former code and we paste our new code. Right, good. Now we can save. There is an error. 11 errors. Let us see what this error is trying to tell us. What's happening? Unsupported action in policy. The action S3 list grant is not supported for the resource-based policy attached to resource type. Okay, they say that we cannot do this. I may be heady enough to discover there's an error. So okay, we cannot deny list for all these objects. They say that we cannot deny list for all these objects. All right, let us try to be creative here. Let us delete the objects that they say we cannot deny list for. All right, let us just try to manipulate the code and see what happens. The objects that they say we cannot list. Okay, and we have some sort of this fix all syntax error. So what is happening with this number 12? There should be no dot. Okay, we got this. We are trying to see if we can fix our code. Okay, so this is JSON, and if you don't know how to write code in JSON, you might not be able to manipulate your code here. So I am not a JSON writer. I'm just trying to guess what is going on with this code here. There's a error, JSON syntax error. Okay, there is this guy here and there is his closure here. No. All right, you guys know what, let us go to our policy and copy back the code from them. Our policy is there available. So what they are trying to tell us is that this code, we are doing what we are not supposed to do. Okay, for anything, let us deny access for everything. Let us start over, but deny access for everything. In our bucket policy, let us just deny everything. Let us not select all services, all actions. We deny, put deny, and then we put star for everything. We paste our error n. Now our error n is where is it? Let's go to our bucket, and is it in our properties? Yeah, our error n is here. We put this and remove. We generate. Okay, now this one just simply refuses any access. Okay, we have just refused all access and all list, right? Let's go now and put it in our object. Permissions, policy. Edit. Now here, just delete all this stuff. So we paste. All right, our code is good now. So let us save. What have we done? We have written a code that says we cannot even list anything in our bucket. We cannot see any object. We cannot do anything. That is the code that we have written. So let's go again and see if we can see any object in our files. We go to bucket, object, right? You see, you don't have permission to get object details. That means even I myself, I cannot even get the object details. Okay, any of the object details, I don't have any permission to get it. I cannot even still see the objects again. Okay, cannot see the objects. That is what deny means. All right. So even if I go to I go to bucket, I just see buckets, but when I open bucket, I cannot see anything that is found inside the bucket. But there are objects inside the bucket. I've just simply denied access to everybody and everyone inside this bucket. All right, it uses bucket policy. So what is the advantage of bucket policy? Bucket policy sets default policy for the bucket such that you do not have to manually change policy per object that is entering the bucket. And what does ACL do? ACL, on the other hand, actually controls each and every bucket that comes into each and every object that comes into your bucket. That is what ACL does. All right. Now, can an AWS account holder of a different account have access to the bucket object of a different account that is configured using access control? Okay, so if they ever ask you in an interview question that how can you have two AWS accounts and then one account, one access to an object that is located in another account? We are not talking about regions, we are talking about accounts. Look at something here. AWS has account. We are existing in an account. Okay, this is an account here, and there is another account here. A company can have two accounts or three accounts or four accounts. It's what they call federated accounts. Okay, now inside this account you need a username and a password to get into this account, and you can get into this account and then you create an S3 bucket inside this account. Okay, and inside this S3 bucket there is an object inside the account. Okay, now there is somebody from this account who wants to get access to that object. How can this person from here get access to this bucket and this object? Okay, is it possible? By the way, is that thing possible? Yes, which means you two students have two different accounts, but one person has a bucket and wants to give access to the objects of that bucket to another person from a different account. Can that work? Yes, it can work. What do you need to do? You just need to come to your AWS account, go to your AWS account name, you come to security details. Okay, when you come to security details, you are going to see something like this. You're going to see canonical user ID. Okay, this is a canonical user ID and this is a account ID. All right, you're going to see canonical user ID and you're going to see account ID. So the person who wants access to somebody's, so let's consider that you here, you want access to this bucket, then you here, you are going to send this information to that person. A here is going to send his canonical ID. A is going to send his canonical ID and user ID. So he is going to send it to B here. Okay, he's going to send it to B. Okay, so B asks A, send me your canonical ID and your user ID, send it to me. So when B receives, let's consider that we are A. What do we need to do? We need to go to our account and then we come here, we copy this canonical ID. We are the ones that want to have access to A's bucket. We copy this canonical ID and this AWS account ID. Okay, we copy it and we send to to B, right? Now what does B do with it? B takes the account ID. Now B now goes to where? B goes to his ACL. B goes to his buckets. Now for us to be able to perform this, we will need to have access to our ACL. Now we do not even have access to our ACL, right? So we need to have access to our ACL. So let's give back our rights. Let's give back our rights, because if we do not give back our rights, we are not going to have access to anything. Okay, principal should be, we have allow, principal should be star, and then ARN, we need to copy our ARN from here, properties, ARN copied, action, all actions, and then we put our ARN here, and then we put our slash and remove it back, add generate policy. Did we wipe the other policy? Oh, that is bad. We were supposed to first of all start over again and delete all the other policies. Okay, so we put star, all actions, ARN, we paste, remove, add statement, and generate policy. Okay, this is the policy that we want. All right, we copy this policy, come here, go to permissions, and then we edit our permissions. We edit our permissions, we paste our new accept or validate code, and we save changes. Okay, now we can have access to our bucket. Okay, so right now A has sent his canonical ID and account ID to B. What will B do with it? B will take that that information, goes to his bucket, goes to permission, comes down to ACL. This is ACL, right? When he comes down to ACL, what will he do? He will say edit ACL, right? When he says edit ACL, what will he do with this one? He will say access for another AWS account. You say add, and then you see they'll ask you now for that enter canonical ID. Okay, you enter that canonical ID that the person sends to you, and then you will give him list and write access. You can give at the object level, you give list, and then maybe you can give write. He can upload and he can see the objects. You can give, he can read it, or he can read the bucket ACL. Now, but don't always give write, because you cannot give somebody who is out of your AWS account the access to give bucket access to another person. That means they give you access to a room, and then you go to that room, you are capable of giving another person access to that same room again. It is not possible, right? So don't give the person the right access here. Okay, so you can give him the we only have one account, so we cannot demonstrate that for you here. But if somebody else could have given us an account, we could have put it here and then we validate, because this one access for another AWS account is supposed to be coming from another different AWS account. Okay, so that is what I really wanted to make mention about access control list. So we have spoken about bucket policy, we have spoken about access control list in depth. I think you understand everything about access control list. You understand metadata and tags, understand encryption. The last thing we were supposed to talk today is S3 lifecycle manager. So remember when we were doing storage class, we promised that we are going to talk about lifecycle manager. All right, let me see lifecycle manager. Let me go open my notes. Okay, AWS lifecycle manager. So we have AWS lifecycle manager. So what does lifecycle manager actually does? Remember that we said that lifecycle manager is an automatic storage class manager. So what happens is that you have a bucket. This is your bucket. This is your bucket, and then you have your different classes, right? You have your different classes. You have the S3 standard, you have the S3 intelligent tiering, you have the S3 infrequent access, you have the S3 archive. You have all these different layers that we all said we have, right? Okay, we said when you always begin, your data is always stored at S3 standard. This is where your data is always stored. Okay, but we said that S3 standard is so expensive. So what do you want? Take for example Netflix. Netflix has a lot of movies. So will they constantly hire somebody to be moving movies from standard to infrequent access, and remove them from infrequent access to intelligent tiering, and remove it and put it down? If they have to do this, then with the millions of movies they have, they will need so many engineers to be doing all this. So they have to now set these things to be occurring automatically, so that at least they should manage their cost with AWS, because if all movies are found up here, they are going to pay so much at the level of AWS. So they have to, some movies that are not being accessed frequently, they have to send those movies right down. Okay, they have to send the movies down. The movies that are accessed frequently are supposed to remain on top. So these have to occur automatically. How do you set this automatically? By using AWS lifecycle manager. Okay, this is the way the lifecycle manager works. So we have you said that data is going to remain in S3 standard. After a period of time, you can say 30 days, let that data move to S3 standard infrequent access. And then after some period of time, maybe 60 days, let that data move to S3 glacier. And after some time, let that data moves down to maybe delete objects or whatsoever. Let that data be deleted. You can decide and delete the data. Okay, like some movies, you hear that Netflix is removing this particular movie. It is deleting the movie from that S3 bucket. Simple. Okay, the movie is going off Netflix. That means it is being deleted. That means they have discovered that that movie has moved from here to here to here, and they have discovered that maybe after a period of maybe 90 days or 4 or 5 months, nobody has accessed that movie. So the movie here is just wasting storage and making them pay AWS for nothing. So they move the movie to delete. Okay, so this is what actually happens. Let me try to make it a bit okay. This is what happens. Data moves from here to here, from here to here, from here to here, from here to here, and from here to here. It can still move from here to here, here to here, and then gets deleted. They delete it after here. because they discover that it is too much wasting time, or they can still move it from here to here, here to here. It depends on the company and how they decide to manage their data. Okay, so automatically you can set data to move from top to bottom, but you cannot automatically set data to move from bottom to top. It is not possible. It cannot be possible for you to set data to move from bottom to top. You can only set data to move from top to bottom. All right, so lifecycle manager helps you to manage your cost by moving data from top to bottom, but it will never manage the data automatically from bottom to top. Okay, so let's see how you configure that lifecycle manager. We come to our bucket. At the level of our bucket, come to management, and then you come down to create lifecycle rule. Create lifecycle rule. You give a rule. You can say movie cost rule. Create a rule like that, movie cost rule, and then you can say you apply this rule to all objects in the bucket, right? All the objects in the bucket, apply the rule to it. Any bucket objects that are there, this rule should be. Now these modifications here are the capitalist ideology of AWS that I always tell you. You have to move current version of objects between storage class. That means if objects are already there, will this rule be actually applied to them? Of course, you can decide. Move non-current version of objects between storage class. Expire current versions of objects. There are some objects that are being expired and they are still there. Do you want to move them to? Permanently delete non-current versions of objects. So these are the options for you. You are going to choose this option with respect to your company and with respect to your client. Okay, so you can decide, and then you say okay, you choose move current version between classes. Okay, now you come here. Look at what is happening here. We have standard infrequent access. So when you click here, you don't have this one standard S3 standard. You only have from standard infrequent access, because automatically data is sent into standard. So it will move from standard to standard infrequent access, but it cannot move from standard infrequent access to standard. It cannot. So that is why automatically you are going to have but standard infrequent access as the beginning, or intelligent sharing. So you can say okay, you take standard infrequent access, say okay, how many days? Maybe you said 90 days. After 90 days, if this object is not being accessible, it should move to standard infrequent access after 90 days. Okay, then you add another role again, another transition. You see here now they don't give us standard infrequent access, they give us intelligent sharing. Okay, for intelligent sharing, they can tell us that okay, you can tell them that after maybe 30 days. All right, after 30 days it goes. Now you set another one. You can set that maybe after maybe 20 days, you decide. So after this, you see what will happen. Object will be uploaded day 0, and after 20 days it will come down. After 30 days, after 90 days, this is where the object will be. Okay, so at the end of the day, you are going to create your role. What's happening? Object move to one zone A. The integer value for one zone must be at least 30. Okay, So they refuse 30 days here. Must be least 30 more than the value for standard. Okay, so this is information I'm getting today. That means here you must have more than so let's put 70, 50. The integer value, it must be at least 30 more than the value for standard. Okay, that means this one should be 120 and 30. An integer value is required. Okay, let us put 300. You see, it gives us now a perfect, so it stays in intelligent S3 infrequent access for 90, stays here for 130 days instead of 300 days. Create rule. So your rule is created now, and now nobody needs to manage your storage class. Now your storage class, as information will be entering your objects, they are going to be automatically moved down to where they are supposed to be, and maybe after some times they get deleted. All right, so that is it. We have concluded our objective for today, which was talking about encryption, metadata, access control, bucket policy, and lifecycle. Okay, lifecycle manager. All right, so make sure you practice most of these things. Make your notes, try to assimilate what they all mean, try to understand what they mean in real life, try to appreciate what they can do, and try to simulate the various conditions that you might need for these things to be used. It is only after you have appreciated the real value of most of these things. If you keep studying them like activities that they are asking you to perform on a platform, you will not understand what they are actually doing. You have to appreciate them like something which you are doing to help somebody, or which you are doing to save a situation. All right, so practice your work very hard. Any question, send it to our WhatsApp group, and we'll see how we can answer it. All right, okay, see you guys in our next class. Goodbye to everybody.